Alright, I think we should be live. I'll just test it right now. Sorry. Right. Okay, we are live. Great. So, the reason I'm doing a live is because I want to get back into streaming a little bit, and I had a little bit of time, and I had this idea for a game for a long time about urban planning. And what urban planning is basically deciding like where to put roads and pedestrian areas and crosswalks and stuff. And one topic that I find interesting is the redesign of intersections, for example. So I've been looking at some videos. This one is one I had bookmarked, where this guy, Matt Pinder, redesigns an intersection to be more safe and in the Dutch style, protected intersection. There's another channel called Not Just Bikes, which is the channel that made me discover this discipline, I'd say. Okay, YouTube is not loading right now. That's fine. Which is really, really good, and I would recommend. But so, what's my idea with regard to that? I would like to make a game where, as a starting situation, you are given an intersection that is designed for cars, basically. And your job as a player is to redesign it to be way more friendly to pedestrians, public transportation, cyclists, and to make it more lively, generally. Like, usually when an intersection is more like safe for pedestrian, it becomes much more lively and more welcoming and a nicer place to live by or to live near. I think YouTube is kind of freaking out. Okay. I think it's because my ad blocker is interfering with YouTube, trying to make ad block not work, if you know what I mean. Alright, so what I have right now is just a little test application with 2 circles that I can move. And as I was writing this code, I was like, oh, that's a nice jumping point or a starting point for a stream, because I only wrote a little bit of code as of now, and so it can remain maybe understandable for people that want to follow, or just I want to get back into streaming a little bit, just to record also the development of my stuff. So let's get into it. Right now I have one function called render that is called every frame, and this resets the state of the game, so I can at any time press this key to reset. And this draws those 2 points, the draw path function. It takes in a path, which is a structure I just made with waypoints in it. Waypoints are vector 2. And when I reset the game, I just push 2 waypoints in my waypoints dynamic array. So this is just C, but I have some custom macros to have dynamic arrays and stuff like that. Things like that. So it looks a little bit strange perhaps, but rput stands for array put, and I pass the pointer to an array, and then I just assign, because this returns a pointer basically. Weird code, but like it looks weird at first, but it's quite handy. Anyway, so I'll try to focus a little bit. So, what I'm trying to accomplish, I was thinking about how do you make a tool that allows people to modify, basically to design an intersection like this. I've been thinking about it a bunch because I want it to be as easy as possible to tweak and to change. If you know the game, what's the name? Tiny Glade. They have wonderful like UX and interactions to build stuff, and I want something like in that class of polish or of usability and user friendliness. But for this kind of real world application, in a way, it would still be a game, but yeah. And I think like one of the fundamental thing that you do when you design an intersection is you do path. You build path. Like you build lanes for the cars, even though ideally the lanes for the cars are not like the central thing. You build bike lanes, you build crosswalks, and all of those are kind of path if you think about it. We could also reason in terms of areas, like for the curb here. But I think it would make more sense that the path curve into areas, if that makes sense. So if you put an area of a floor for pedestrian, and then put a path that is a road, it would carve into the curb. And then you can define like regions where you put like grass and then trees and stuff like that. That's another story. But yeah, what's I'm pretty sure about is that path will be a major component of this game, and I want to start prototyping a little bit this. And so for that, I made a struct called path that has an array of waypoints. And currently I initialize 2 waypoints hard-coded at this location, and I can already like drag them. That's all. I drag them. The code to drag them is basically this draw path, and then we have 2 pieces of state that I will have to externalize, but they are here now, and we can just drag the points. I'm wondering what I will do first, but what I should do first, basically. But so one thing that I could do is add a way to add more points and then draw lines between them. But I think what I'm most interested in is how do we manage curvatures, like curves. And I already did some experiments in the past where I put multiple points and try to derive a curve that follows the points. Of course, there is like the Bezier points, Bezier curves that you can do, but they are kind of hard to manipulate for, I think, for a user. I don't like them, for example, in Photoshop, stuff like that. So I want to try to find another way. And I think for this example, so let's see, do we have up? Maybe I can take a screenshot and also scribble over this up beam. Let's turn off the grid. Okay. Right, so I think some primitives that we could have, let's suppose we define a bike lane to be, not a bike lane, sorry, a car, a lane. How does it work? So I'm not super fluent in Affinity. Okay, so we got one car lane like this. I'm interested in how do we define this curvature, basically. Perhaps we could have a second. Hold on. Where's the okay. Okay, so we got a second lane like this, perpendicular to the first. And now what's of interest to me is how do we get a curving path between them, right? And I think what I want in terms of UX is you hover over the intersection of the two paths, and it gives you the option to basically like extrude or pull out a curved path from the intersection. So something like this, but curved. So here is where I should use Bezier. I think there is actually this very feature in Affinity. Maybe this. Yeah, that's actually exactly what I want. That's exactly what I want to implement. Yes, that's exactly what I want. So you go near the intersection and it gives you the option to put a, how could we call that, a junction, or some kind of, because what effectively it does is it joins this lane with this lane. Also in terms of like logically, if a car would want to go from here to here, it would have to follow this this curve, this junction. So that could be a name for it. You can see here is he's actually like having a reference radius for the how much you can curve the curb, and that would be like something that you can also set here. Alright, so how do we implement that? We definitely want a line between the 2 points of the path, and then we want to have 2 paths, and then we'll see from here how to implement more. So let's go. By the way, just checking that, yeah, I think we can hear my voice. Okay, good. And the chat should display here if somebody speaks in it. Good. So we have the waypoints. I have to get back in the flow of streaming. It's it's kind of hard, harder than it looks. So let's have 2 paths. Let's hardcode that for now, and say, so maybe we put a S to be consistent, and say the first one has 2 waypoints. Whoops. And the second one, let's also, eventually we want to be able to place as many paths as we want, but for now it's fine to just put them in by hand. And resets. Okay, doesn't yet work. Does it compile? No. Okay, usually I keep that open so I can see the compilation errors, but now I'm a bit zoomed in. Alright, so we draw the first path, we draw the second one. Okay, I think it works. Now, okay, now we have a problem with the drag and drop because the way I identify what's being dragged is just by the waypoint index, which won't really work for what we're doing, obviously. So one way I could fix it is also store which path we are editing, basically. Can close that down. Problem with that is that it will become annoying to deal with the waypoint index and the path index. Have to check for both. Also, since we want to do like the intersection between two paths, perhaps we will want to refer to a waypoint of another path, like universally. Like for example, it's not super clear in my head yet, so I'm just spitballing, but let's say we have one path like this, one path like this, and we want to do a curve between them, between this, this, and this. We maybe want to refer to the 3 points in another object, which would be a junction or curve or whatever. And for that, it would be nice if each waypoint had a different index, even if they are from different curves. So at that point, it would be more like an ID from different paths, I mean. So what I'm thinking is we could have a single array with all the waypoints, and then from the path we refer to the waypoints by index. That could be one decision, architectural decision that we make. But for now, let's just hardcode some other positions so they cross basically. And let's draw the line between the two waypoints. Let's say if the waypoints that we are editing, or not editing, iterating, is the index is bigger than 0, then we can draw a line between the previous one and the current one. Line, I think this takes, my autocomplete is a bit broken at the moment, but I think it takes 2 vector truths, so we can use the path waypoints and say this, and let's go from the previous waypoint to the current waypoint. Then we have to give, a color to that, so color white, so it's readable, and a width. And let's see, so that's kind of not ideal for the stream. Change the organization of my project, and for some reason it broke the autocomplete. Okay, I switched width and color. Okay, let's make them thick. That's still very, that's not 10 pixel. I think there is a bug there that I will have to fix, and I think it's already in the to-dos of this function, like the comments. All right. Okay, so we've got an intersection there. That's already interesting and nice. So how would a junction work exactly? I suppose those could be like kind of control points more than waypoints, and we could generate more actual waypoints, like suppose we want to do a junction like this, a curve like this. We need basically one here, one here, one here for a Bezier curve. And I think we could generate them. And now how do we identify this one from this one, for example? I suppose we could say this is the start, this is the destination. Then we can dynamically compute the intersection. And dynamically compute this point, and then draw a curve. That sounds reasonable to me. So let's first do the refactor so that each point is has an ID. Basically, we put every point in a global array, and then we use the indices to these points in the path stuff. Right. So we first need a global array for the waypoints. I think they can just remain vector2s for now. Or maybe we should make it a struct for future proof, but I don't know. Why? Let's keep it like this. Waypoints, or just, to be honest, points, or just control points. Control points is fine. Let's mark it as a dynamic array. Why dynamic? Just because then I don't. Could be fixed as well. I don't know. And then let's just put a new control point. Oops. And dereference it and add position to it. So we can just basically copy this, I think. That's in the game state, GS game state. Okay, so waypoints or control points 1 and 2 are for path 1, and 3 and 4 will be for path 2. 300, 0, and 300, 400. Okay. And then the waypoints then become indices. So that would be 0, 1, that would be 2 and 3. Okay. And then of course they are not currently indices, so we've got to change that. We have to change that, so we go to the waypoints and we can rename that control points indices. Make it an int. Beam. Okay. And then when we draw, of course, we need to do the little change. So we get the index here. Control index, let's be a bit verbose. Even though we are prototyping, maybe I don't need to be that verbose. Control points, all points. Whoops. Control index, and then here we use like we take a pointer to the item so we can modify it later. That's kind of the way I work now, or the way I'm trying to experiment with. Alright, so now we need to change, so let's comment that out, just check. Pointer overflow here, control index. Let's run the debugger real quick. I suppose, no, okay, I understand what's going on. It's just, I basically changed the layout of the game state structure, so it couldn't hot reload it, at least not yet. Later on in the development of the engine, I'm planning to address that, but then of course it wouldn't work like this. Okay, so we still have the bug that 2 points move when I click and drag 1, which is kind of expected. I should now use waypoint index will become like control point index. Control point. Waypoint was kind of easier to type. Maybe I keep waypoints and change back the other. Could do a search replace if necessary. So this will become, okay, let's think. So I could loop over all the waypoints and draw them. I guess that's way easier. Let's do that for now. So we go over the control points. And then basically this becomes this, and I can take all of this, put it there. That sounds fine. And then dragging waypoint index becomes, well, it's already correct. And there is no reference to the path here, so we are good. And by the way, we call that, this is draw path, so we'll call that twice. That's not intended then, or not correct anymore. Okay. So now I can move every control point independently. And what remains is that we should do is basically draw the lines between the points. So at that point we can go like path index, or we could use a for each. That's a new thing I'm trying. And then actually that should work already. Let's see if it compiles. So it's just an abort. That's weird. I guess there was maybe Hasan. Normally it should say Hasan here. It's not doing that right now for some reason. Heap after free. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on, but it's okay. I think it's again maybe. Never mind. So we have got an index control or waypoint index, and then we can index into the control points like this basically. But what we want to do is just draw the we want to draw the line. So if we are not currently iterating the first point, we could start at 1 here. That would be simpler actually. Then we take a reference to the waypoint, and we want also a reference to the previous waypoint. So let's just inline that for simplicity, and then here we can say -1 waypoint prev, and then we can draw a line. Waypoint prev to waypoint. What's up with that? So I don't know why I take references at this point. No need. Or pointers, I mean. Okay. Okay, so we are not good. Not my. So what? Let's see. So we are taking the length. That's fine. I forgot that this is not a dynamic array, so that won't go. That won't work. So for, well, I guess I could just say this can stay in draw path, and I will call it twice. And this must be extracted. Okay, so this manipulates the waypoints and draws them, and this draws the two paths. And then I don't need the loop, even though I will reintroduce the loop very soon. Okay. Okay. Now, if I want to do that that curve thing like this, what I already figured out is I need to calculate the intersection, and then 1 point here, 1 point here, and we can draw a Bezier curve. And if they are not perfectly perpendicular, I think I just have to follow the line here and here the same distance, and I can do a kind of a curve, and it will be a good start already. So to do that, we could say draw curve, and the function will take 3 points, 3 parameters, or 2 actually, start and end. Yeah, I'm not sure that makes the most sense. I guess, like, because a path could have more points following that, that makes it a bit more complex. So maybe I should think about that, but now I'm thinking we need a segment for the start, a segment for the end, or the destination. Like, this could be A1, A2, and B1, B2, and then we just do a curve to bridge them. And if we like do B1, A1, A2, and B1, B2 in the other way, like we go up here, then the curve would be like this. Sounds okay to me. So let's try that. So waypoints 0. Did I call those control points then? Okay, so let's quickly replace here everything. Okay, so that should be fine. So we are hard-coding everything right now. That's way easier for us for now, and then we add editing capabilities later. So draw curve will be just here. Draw way. So yeah, A1, A2 is fine. Okay. Let's draw a line from A1 to B2 just to check our stuff. What's really? Didn't I just rename it? Yeah. My bad. My bad. So this is waypoint indices, and then I need to index, which sucks. So let's, since it's hard-coded anyway, let's just say waypoints 0, waypoints 1, waypoints 3, 2, I mean, and waypoints 3. Okay. And this is still wrong. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think it makes more sense to pass the indices, indeed. Okay. And so, as I was saying, let's draw a line. Where do we draw the path? Here. So I'll just copy these settings basically and say it has to be orange, and we dereference the waypoint at A1. That gives us a position, and at B2. And now we get a nice line in between those. Okay, now we want to find the intersection of the two lines. I think I already have a function for that. Line intersect. I'm pretty sure I have one. I think, for example, in the game that I did for the Odin Jam. Of course, I have a ton of like binding stuff. This is the one. Line. Okay. Problem is it's Odin, of course, so we can translate, but intersect. Ray plane intersection, no. There we go. Okay, so this is a function that I'm supposed to move to math. Or I don't know if math is proper, maybe geometry or something like this. Line with 2s. So we got segment intersection, lines intersection. Which one is best for our case? Honestly, whatever. Both are interesting and useful potentially. So let's move them to actually to math. And later so I'll just dump them at the end and move to geometry. Okay. And this should not have two s's. Okay. And let's make them static inline like the rest of things here. Even though probably ultimately we don't want them to be inlines. Or static inline, I mean. It's not really the same. What's up? What? Oops. No return? I just... And this was just a bool, I guess? Yes. Puppy. Just relaunching the build system because it depends on this file. So it crashed or it stopped working when it recompiled. Okay, and we are back to there. Back to our project. So it's called lines intersections. Technically there is only one intersection, right? So it would be even better to rename it same for this guy. Apparently I don't use them. I use them probably in the external projects. Anyway. So, what do we have to pass to this guy? Just points. A, B, C, D. And then we get the intersection. Sounds good. Sounds good. Wrong function though. So that's basically this. A, B, C, shit, and D. And then we get the intersection. Okay, and then we can maybe draw a circle at that location. It will have a certain radius and a color. Let's make it purple, something like this. Oh yeah, I'm trying different cases to see which one I prefer. I think this one is nice. Okay, so we got the intersection and it's working fine. If they don't cross, we have a problem anyway. So we should never like call this if they don't cross, I suppose. Or we'll see later. Maybe it's also fine if like we have two walls like this and we do a curve like that. We'll see later. Okay. So I think now we can do the Bezier classic thing between this and this, although we should probably first find do we want a Bezier or just a circular thing? That's also a question. Or is it the same thing if the both control points are at the same distance? I'm not sure. But anyway. I don't think we have any function for that. Bezier, raylib, or that's just experiment, compatibility layer with raylib, and only stb2type as Bezier as a word in my code base. So no, we don't have anything, so maybe we can do like Bezier and then have A, B, C, D. And then T. And then do the thing with the lerping. Because like I think drawing a basic curve is quite simple, if I recall. I think it's let me think. So I need to interpolate between this and this, and between this and this. And then the 2 points that I get, I interpolate between them. So basically, vec2 AB, and then I'll lerp between A and B. And then I do the same with A, B, B, C. Hold on, I don't need 4 points, I need 3, right? and then I do the same with BC, and then, well, I can just return. By the way, I should say lerp vec2, or is it vec2 lerp? Both order make sense to me in different contexts, so I never know which one I picked in the end. Yeah. Okay, and yeah, I could return directly. Okay. And here I should put AB and BC. Sounds good. Then in draw curve, we can just call Bezier a bunch of times. Let's say 10 times. Let's be modest at first. And then just you can start at 1 again, and T1 will be, let me think, I divided by 10, I minus 1 then. That would be the start T, and then the end T would be minus 0. And then we call Bezier twice, and we get our 2 points. A and B. It's kind of inefficient, of course, but it's okay. Because then I will compute every point twice, basically. Draw line. A, B, 20, orange. It will replace this line, basically. Okay. And now I need to provide, so the T's, I already have them. That's the last argument, T2. And I should provide GS waypoints, A1, GS waypoints. That's kind of not fun. Well, here we need the intersection. And the third one will be B2 for now. And here we put the intersection, which was intersection. Okay. And here T1 got deleted somehow. Okay. So it doesn't work. That's a bummer. Let's see why. I'm dividing integers by integers. Classic mistake. And it works. We've got a curve. Beautiful curve. Even works like this, which I didn't expect. But that makes sense. It just goes like tick, tick, tick. Okay, and the beauty of this, if I can say this, is we can choose which waypoint we want here. Like if we swap the order of the first segment, then the curve connects the two lanes in different ways, or the two paths in different ways. So it's already kind of cool. Now I could do the thing to limit how far, like where do we place the waypoints here. So if I take this reference, I think, is it at the start that he kind of, yeah, puts two lines like this, that for me would be the borders of the two lanes or path. So you would have one, so we can swap the order here. So basically those two paths are lane and they have a width, which would be higher than what we see now. And then can we actually make them a little bit wider? That would be nice. Draw a line. Let's try 150. Okay, so we see some problems with my line drawing method, but we get an idea of the width of the lane. Could even be more. And ideally, it didn't work. Oh, I just didn't see the date, I guess. Oh yeah, it's too quick. I didn't see. Not sure what. Sometimes it's very fast, sometimes it's slower. It's supposed to be very fast, but I don't know. Yeah, so we have one lane like this, one lane like that, and then the curve. That's pretty good. So let's try to limit, like to have a automatic control point pop up here, so it's the same length as this, or like limits the distance that the curve will go. And how do we do that? I guess we can calculate the distance between those 2 points, normalize like the vector, the difference, and then multiply by a certain distance. Yeah, let's do that. Let's put back this order, which is easier to reason about to me. So we calculate the delta between this point and this point, and we have to subtract the intersection from this point. Then we get this vector. But we probably want the inverse. We want this vector, so we subtract this from this, I believe. Wait, yeah. Okay, let's do that. So how high level? Yeah, I think that's not really like a curve. It's a junction between two paths. So that's really about indices to the waypoints array. And the intersection is already a position, basically. So what I'm trying to do is figure out how to calculate this point that should appear here. And what I said before was what? I should subtract this from, no, this from this. No, this from this. So this should be subtracted from this, I think. Basically, my problem is just a problem of naming. Okay, going to be terrible, but too late. Okay, so that doesn't really work. That's normal because that's just a delta. And then I wanted to normalize that. Yeah, the naming I need to figure it out. I don't know yet. And then I should also scale that. So vec to scale, I think. Beam, and then I put a distance arbitrary. I think currently it's called mul scalar, which I should change to scale. Can I just put a node in math? Right, I already have a node to change. Well, I'll put the tag urgent, so one day I will go and do all the urgent renames. Very well. Still not sure how to name that. Bezier A, let's say, and so it might not be obvious what I'm doing, but let me cook. I'm almost done. Okay, that's not quite what I expected, to be honest. So, circle. Okay. So, our our red dot is all the way there. So it's supposed to be sort of here. So I think I just messed up the order of the subtraction. Probably. Just wing it. Vibe code. Okay. Don't know why the Bezier is so wrong. I'm not sure. If I put A. Ah, but yeah, of course, because I'm passing it at the wrong place. Bezier A. The heck? Alright, okay. I need to pay attention. Okay, so let's maybe... I still didn't figure out how I should name stuff, so it's gonna be messy. Okay, so A1, A2, and then B1, B2. And so B2 is the one that we are interested in. I think that's where this is kind of crap. Okay, delta A, delta B, Bezier A, Bezier B, and then Bezier A, Bezier B. I think I could call them. Is it with a Z or a B or S? Bezier. I think I could call them end and start, beginning and end. Wonderful. Look at that. First try. Okay, not really first try, but let's pretend. Okay, removing that. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Now, what we kind of want is the ability to add a new curve, basically. So hover the intersection and then drag out the curve, just like in Affinity when I do this. Like we would click here, drag out, or drag out, or drag out. Depending on the direction, it should select different points in different orders. And then create a junction. But first, let's rename this shit. So delta A. So that would be A would be the start, or beginning, and end. Hold on. Right. So start, beg, end. And that can stay like this. Beg, Bezier beg. Bezier beg, Bezier end. Okay. And also let's figure out an A and B here is just yeah, I don't know. Let's not worry about that now. Yeah, I wanted to say let's figure out why just a little bit of the curve is missing here. Because I should be allowed to increase until 10, up to 10. And here I'm not sure why it's also the case, apparently, that it's missing. Like this is not exactly perpendicular. Here as well, actually. Because the line is a little bit tilted already. So if we just increase the amount of iteration of segments, then we get something that is more precise. Of course, we need to completely change the line drawing to do a continuous curve, a continuous line, but not today. Anyway, I plan to generate geometry from all of this in 3D later. So interesting. It's not quite circular actually. It's more. I think I would prefer something more circular. Maybe a bit smoothed, but still circular. And let's try to increase a little bit not the radius, but the distance from of the control points. Dist beam. Not bad. Actually, I just thought of another potential way of defining a junction, like UX wise. Maybe you click first on the lane that you want to start the junction from, then click on the destination lane, and it adjoins then. And I'm also thinking about like do I want to implement like multiple waypoints right now, like have one lane that can like have multiple waypoints and still have this working, or do I want to keep that for later? I think I probably want to implement that now, so I'll try. So one way I thought I could do that is if I hold shift and click on one control point, it just puts me in a mode where a new control point is under my mouse and I can click to place it somewhere. That implies that when I click the waypoint, I should find which path it belongs to, because remember now it's a separate array that contains all the waypoints. But I can probably do that. So let's go see, put that on the side, just so we keep an eye on what we're on the goal. That's what's drawing the waypoints and doing the drag and drop, not the drag and drop, the dragging of the waypoints. Perhaps we could draw the path a little bit transparent so it's less aggressive here. So color with alpha, and then we say okay. And so yeah, adding waypoints. Let's get to it. So if we are hovering, if the mouse was just pressed, that's where we enter the dragging behavior. But if we are holding shift, so key is down, shift, I think we have like mod ifire. Actually no, we don't. We just have them for when you press a key with a modifier, which is not really the case. Unless you think the mouse buttons are keys, maybe that could be an interesting API design. So it's not mod shift, it's a key, shift, left shift, or right shift. That sucks. Right shift. There is no right shift. There is. Oops. Okay, so if we are actually holding down the shift key when we click on this, then what we should do is add the new waypoints to the list. Waypoints are put. That appends a waypoint to the list, and then we can assign it to a proper value and it actually doesn't really matter because we will update it right away. So let's set it to 0 for now. And let's test just that. I think it should appear if I try. Okay, abort. What did I do wrong? Again, it doesn't really tell me much. It's a bug in my engine. I should normally put more info here. Perhaps I should just attach the debugger. But it's at this line. Okay, I see. Or do I? Yeah. I push, or I put a new waypoint in the waypoint array, and this can sometimes grow the array, and that would move the array, and so this pointer won't be valid anymore because it points to an item inside the old memory of the dynamic array. So it's a classic trap as well. And maybe one reason you might not want to use the dynamic arrays like this. I could honestly just use a fixed one and that would be fine. Add waypoints. But I don't know, I want to give dynamic arrays a chance. Dynamic, I guess. So let's just add the waypoints at the end of the loop, which solves some problems anyway. Did I keep in my, yes, beam? So there is already something here, so let's reset. Shift click and it appears here, that's good. Now, we also want to add it to the current path. So we need a way to find out which path we clicked, basically, or which path does the point that we clicked belong to. Can a point belong to multiple paths? No, I don't think so. At least not now, probably never. Oh, it is not in the current design. So we can probably just thinking can probably just say path index from waypoint. And then we just iterate all the paths, I suppose. Path index. Path. Oh, sorry. I'm a bit clumsy. It's fixed. It's a fixed array. Count of path. And then we grab our path. We got our waypoints, indices. Guess I could remove the S here. let's just name it I. It's confusing, but I don't mind it right now. Oh boy. Path. Sorry for all the programming crimes. Basically it's an index of the index that I should name it, so waypoint index index. Looks super bad. Well, actually that would be a good use case for the for each thing. Macro. Because then I don't have the intermediate index. I don't have to name it, basically. So I'll just go waypoints up. Hold on. What I want to do is check if the waypoint index that we passed, we collide. If those are equal, then it means we found our path, right? So we can return. Let's go and just return the path. I don't care. Could return the index, but why do more gymnastics where we can just do that? And then here, up. What? That's a quirk of the macro for a good reason that I don't want to explain. So why was I doing that? Because I want to add a waypoint to the correct path. Maybe we can say adding waypoints to path and then the index. Yeah, actually, yeah. Let's do that, and then still we have our add waypoints. And here we define which path we are adding to. Get path from waypoints, and the waypoint is simply, is it I? Yes. And that's the path itself of. Just say that I didn't care, but I actually. Hold on. Path index. Return path index. Sorry, I'm a little slow today. And this returns an int at this point. Okay. Getting there. Okay. So when we finish the loop, when we draw all of this, if we need to add a waypoint this frame, we add a waypoint at 0, 0 for now. And since we have set this, we know that we have to add to this path this waypoint. Paths, we index into the paths, and then we have the waypoints indices, points indices, and we can put a new index in there, and that index will be the length of this array, basically. -1, because it's the last thing that we put in the other array. Right. I think that's correct, technically. Yes, that's correct, because I shift-clicked this and it added it to the end of this path. Of course, it added it arguably at the wrong end, because maybe I want to extend this way, but that's okay. And now what I want to do is, instead of putting it at 0, 0, it should follow the mouse until I release the mouse. So basically become, I guess it starts, can we just say that it becomes the drag point, actually? Maybe that works. Until I release. Yeah, that works. There is a 1 frame glitch there that we can totally fix. What will be the most nice way to do it? This is the dragging code. I think we could pull it out if we wanted. Let's do it. I think we can. We just have to get to the correct point, basically. So if mouse it down and we are dragging something, then the waypoints would be GS waypoints. Oops, I cut it instead of copy. Okay. Think mouse offset is a global. I think we're good. Not a global, but you know, a static. It's fixed. Nice. No, adding path, and that's sounds good. Seems nice. And we can do it for both paths. Okay. Good. Now, what if I wanted to do like a junction here? I could hard code it, but of course it would be funnier if it was interactive. So so I had two different ideas. One would be to do it like Affinity Designer, where you click on the intersection and drag out. Another one would be to click on the starting segment and drag to the destination segment, or click and click, but drag sounds actually quite good. And now I'm kind of thinking, so the input of my curve thing is this point, this point, this point, this point. So if I drag from here, I can here to here. So I can probably see like the starting position of the mouse is here, and then it was here, so it's getting further away from these points compared to these points. Like it's going in that direction. So then I should pass the points to the curve thing in that direction. And then same for this. Like if I go like this, then I'm getting closer to this one. If I go like this, I'm getting closer to this one. I suppose that's kind of a projection of the points onto the line here, and then compare. Okay, yeah, I could try that. I think that would make sense. But first, let's check if we have any comments. New prototype. Yes. Hello, Skadau, Dadu. Yes, it's a new prototype. I don't know at what time you play. Beep. Would be nice if I could tell the time. But it's a new prototype for urban design game, where like you redesign intersections like this and you try to make them more appealing and more safe, more lively. And right now I'm trying to do like an editor for the roads and the lanes, and connecting lanes together with like joints like this. So it's just kind of a side project for now. And right now I'm trying to figure out the UX for joining two segments. And so I think before I try to do what I was talking about, what I should do is make a data structure, or literally a struct, that defines one junction like this. And I will call that a junction. Junction. And no, it doesn't have a position, it has... Basically I want to join two segments, so I should probably... I could list the waypoints from the first segment and the second. Although if we like add a waypoint in between two things, it will get tricky. but that's just a problem for later. So waypoints A1, A2, B1, B2, and then we maybe in the game state we have a big array of junction, and here in the reset function we populate that array with some dummy data, or not dummy but test, junction A1. So let's do 1 actually. So that's, I think maybe we could put numbers on top of the waypoints just to keep track, but I think we will just hardcode for a little while, so it's maybe not worth it. No, okay, let's write numbers on top of them because it would be useful for debugging as well. Where do we draw the waypoints? Here. So just a little bit of code to write the index of the waypoints on top of the waypoints. Like that. And the color will be black, I guess. Color black, so it's so we can read. And I think, oh yeah, I have to pass draw text options here. Color. It's kind of complicated, but it's the way it works now. And yes, I need to give a size to my rectangle. Yeah, it's too much code for just putting a centered text on, and it's not even so centered. Line X, that should do it. Okay, not bad. I'll have to improve this API, but not today. Also the font size could be bigger. Okay. Alright, just checking the comments from time to time. So we've got numbers now. So what if we want a junction from 13 to 7? We need to pass 13, 14, 6 and 7. What did I say? 13, 14, B1, 6, B2, 7. Really? I thought... oh yeah, I forgot the prefixes. I guess maybe it's a bit too verbose, maybe I should remove the prefixes. Oops. Okay, so if I reset, I should get a junction, but right now I don't. So this is the hard-coded one, so let's replace that. Draw curve, I call it. So we can just iterate the junctions with my magic macro. And then I think, yeah, it's as simple as just junction A1, B2, B1, B2. Got a little crash here. Again, a memory problem. Because I modified the structure of the game state, I guess. Oh, what? I have two implementations of dynamic arrays. I should remove the old one. No, that's not it. What's the matter? Oh, of course. I hard-coded something with the indices that we had before, but they are not valid anymore. We don't have that many points by default. So 0, 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Great. Bloop, bloop, bloop. This is weird. What's going on? 0, 1, 2, 3. 0, 1, 2, 3. Sounds good. Okay. Typo. Okay. Alright. And if we want to add another junction when we reset the game, let's say we want to go this way. 1, 0, 3, 2. 1, 0, 3, 2. I need to reset. Okay. Cool. Not bad. Does that still work, by the way? Oh, I think we never tested like when we have segments with more points. So how to add one here? We don't have an interface yet, so I cannot really add one here. So we have to code the interface, the UI. Trying to think of the simplest way to do that versus the best way. Well, I think maybe I should implement like detection of when we hover the segments, and then I can click on this one, drag, release on this one, and do what I was imagining with like some way to tell in which direction we want the junction. Yeah. So to tell if we are hovering a segment, we need the distance to it from the mouse. And I think I also have a function for that. Distance, I guess it's in this project. No. Segments. Closest point on segments. Guess we could use that. Let's move that to the math library. Later on we will extract it to something else probably. Static. Yeah, geometry library, that sounds good. Static inline. We return a... oh, it's a vector tree. That's not really what I'm interested in right now. Where did I think it was in the game that I did for the game jam. Okay, let's try to use this one. Let's try to use this one. Translate from Odin to C. Okay, this is a new variable, vec2. Float. Oops. Okay, this is not the most thrilling, I know, but well. What was that called? T? Okay. A to B and A. What's A vector? A to B, that's also supposed to be a vector, I guess. So here, okay, so I don't have really, I can't really do operations on vectors currently. I think I could use an extension, a C extension for that. But right now I will have to do with that. A to B. A to B2. Squared, I guess. That's weird. Let's float actually. Okay. So now we can do right. Scale. Okay. So this will be the mouse points, and this will be the two segment extremities. And if the distance, then we can take the distance from the closest point. I suppose this is the distance. But we can just recompute it. And okay. So when we draw the path, when we draw the line, closest point. It's probably a waste to do it like this, but we can optimize later if needed. So I will need to bring that up and probably extract it in a... Yeah, let's just... What was I doing? Drawing the path? Draw path here. Okay, so we need the closest points. We need to pass waypoint prev, waypoint, and the first argument is actually the mouse. Okay, mouse pause. Then we get the closest point that we can perhaps draw. Why not? Beam. Nice. So we got the closest point of each segment on their respective. That's kind of a funny visualization. Could do a tweet out of that probably. That will come in handy actually for determining in which way we moved on the segment, in which direction we moved on the segment during the drag. Great. And then distance. Or we can take the distance squared just to save a little bit of processing. Closest points to the mouse point, I guess. Oops. Maybe we need to transform the mouse later, so I put it in the variable. List squared. And then if the distance is smaller than something like this, we draw the... Okay, so if we overlap the segments, we got a little red circle. Okay. Okay, no one in the chat, that's great. I mean, that's great. That's I didn't forget anybody. So now I should do something so that when I click, I remember the start position of the mouse and also the start segment that we clicked on. And then when I release, I actually add the junction. And I think that will go in the game state probably. Adding junction to segments. Thing is, we don't have really a way to point to a particular segment. Except we can provide the 2 points, the 2 waypoints. So I guess we'll do that. Bit weird. It's a bit strange, but we can say just that we take the waypoints, the first waypoints of the segments, basically. And so, whoops. So when, if we click, mouse just, oops, just pressed, no need for the 0, then we need to access this. -1. But we don't need to actually access the position itself, just the index. GS. Here we go. What's wrong? Alright. My bad. That would be the path. Okay. So when we press the mouse and we are hovering a segment, then this adding junction from waypoints variable will take the value of this waypoint, technically. We can actually try to debug that or to visualize that like that. Little magic macro. When I click here, it should say here 4. Yes, it works. And 1 here, yeah. 2 here, yes. And then when I drag and release here, I need to basically compute or find out this point, and this point. Deduce. So, okay, so we are, it's a good start. So we are, I guess here we could say if mouse released, just released, then we need to do all the work. We make a new junction to determine the I think it will be a bit annoying, probably. Okay, so we could say like the junction A1 is the point that we were following, like the tracking here. Basically, actually we should also say, and this is not -1, basically. Oop. And A2 can be the next one, basically. But it's not that easy. Get path from waypoint. That's it. So we get the path. Starting path index dest path index, and that would be this. Yeah, I guess this can go, I don't know. It's kind of a utility method or function, so it could go not too far from the state, I guess. The game state. Okay. So we've got our the two paths. Well, no, that's just a bit stupid because I could just remember I could just remember the two waypoints from waypoint. Seg A, seg B. Then if seg A is not -1, okay. So now we can just do junc A1 seg A, A2 seg B. That's some shitty naming, my god. Junc B1 becomes this. The order will be wrong, but that's okay. We'll fix it later. Whoops, sorry. Okay. I think that should kind of work. It will make a junction, just not in the right directions. Now just to assign the junction. Okay, of course I need to rename that, then add that. Okay. I think it compiled, right? No. Can just oh. I mean, we can track. So so when we start to drag 4 and 5, that's correct. That's the 2 points that we are in between. Then we arrive here and we release. Up, we got our junction. That's perfect. Except the direction is not fully correct. 4, 5 is correct, but 2, 3 should be 3, 2, basically. So now we need to sort. When we add the junction, we need to sort the points somehow. And the way I'm thinking we could do it is we got that red point, and when we arrive here, the equivalent red point would be closer to 5 than 4, if you know what I mean. Oh, it moved in this direction. Same for this segment, like although that's maybe a little bit more tricky. We can basically just remember the starting position and then do the thing dynamically. So we can say vec2 pose and that's not really where I should assign that. I guess that's here. Mouse. Okay. Now I'm thinking, that's not the most elegant, but I could say no, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work if I say like that's the starting position, that's the end position. Am I closer to, like I measure the distance from 0.5 at the start and the end, and if I'm closer, I pick this one as the direction. But I think like if I drag all the way to here, then it will be further away, so it won't work. So I think I do need to kind of project the points onto the line with this closest point thing. And I do think if I look into there and understand it, I could use that like this. From A to your closest points. Like I want this basically. So let's try that. Let's call that segment normalized T to closest points. Makes no sense, but I kind of see what I mean. That's the segment points. Okay, go back to where we were, and AB point. So I suppose so we recorded the starting point, and we have the end points. So we just need to compare them. So that would be list start, and we can just feed in the position that we recorded here basically, and then the 2 points of the segment. Beam. That's a pretty long line, and then dist end. And then here, instead of the recorded position, we give the current position. And then we can just log both and see where we're at. Dist beg is, and dist and is, and then we fix up all the little things. Right, I need to pass positions. This is going to be slightly annoying to type out. Okay. So let's pull up the console, and so here if I drag toward here, or toward here maybe, what I accept to see is 1.1 maybe, no 0.1, because we are like, this is like 0, this is 1, so 0.1. Then when I release 0.3, something like this, because we will be about a third of the way here. Okay, nothing logs. Okay, I didn't compile maybe? I didn't compile. I need a way to see. Maybe that's why I didn't see. I don't know. Yeah, I renamed this. Forgot about that. Okay, it compiled. So up, -8 and 0.9. That's not exactly expected. So maybe I misunderstood what that meant. Very possible. Just checking for possible typos. No. AB points. Oh, okay. I changed the order, but then I used it in the previous fashion. Okay, that's why. It compiled, yes. Up. Okay, now it looks good. About what I guessed. So up, and if I do like this, then the beginning value is higher than the end value, and so we know that we should reverse the order of the junction. Nice. So I think we can just brute force it. So if beg is smaller than end, then it's the normal order. Else we inverse the thing. Like that. So I reset the stuff. Shit. Let me just tweak a little bit the reset function. Let's put everything a little bit lower. Even more. And let's hold on. Let's remove the two junctions. Okay. And now let's say I want to do a junction from this one to this one, like this side. Perfect. Resets this side. No. Oh yeah, I don't support that yet, but this side, yes. And this one doesn't work. That's because I need to sort the two other points, let's say. So I go back to the junction thing here, oops, and I hate this naming. I will do another pass on it later, I think, because I don't know. So now I need to find So let's add some variables. So seg begseg begseg a would be this, begseg b would be this, and I should have updated the one below because they are basically the same. Okay, better. Begdist a, begdist b. Begdist a, begdist b. Good. Now dest or end seg a and seg b, and here we need to determine, so I guess that's dov. Those are going there, and we can just use them here. Same for those actually. A, B, oops, B, and BA, B, A. Okay. And then this becomes this, and we can just have the same pattern, smaller than B, then we just put it in the correct order, otherwise we flip it. I could write that better, I think. I'll do a pass to write it better in a sec, just checking it works. Okay. Was this correct already? I don't remember. No, that's not correct. We need to use this, of course. Here. Oop. And the B, I could have typed it out, but okay. Damn, okay. Reset, checking it works. That works. That works. That works. And that works. Perfect. Kind of cool. What happens? Okay. I was wondering what happens if we did it on the same thing, and I think, yeah, probably the intersection is invalid and just 0. Right, not too bad, not too bad for first stream on this prototype. Do we have anybody in the chat? Hey Sebastian, look interesting. Is it using Metal as GFX API or some layer in between? It's using Sokol, the very good library Sokol. GFX. But I could pull it up here actually. Sokol GFX. It's kind of a lightweight layer between the graphic API of the system and your code. Very easy to use, very nice to use. You have to understand how a graphic API works, but it's the same concept. You can create a buffer, vertex buffer, index buffer, image or texture, sampler, shader. and there is a cross compiler that also optionally comes with the library. So in the end it ends up being like Metal on Mac, and on Windows it's DirectX. And then I can also export for the web or compile for the web where it's WebGL. Yeah, lovely library. Okay. At this point, does that still work? Oula. Oh, that works as well. Like I can add a junction to my own path. Yeah, why not? That's some crazy stuff is happening here. It makes sense because probably it's trying to put junctions each time I move a waypoint. It also thinks that I want to add a junction. Oops. Okay. What's next? Let's see. Right. What's next? So I think at this point... Oh yeah, I wanted to do just a pass to clean up this. Clean that up. Our beg dir. And flip. So I'm just like rewriting those conditions. I think I will just use a ternary. And then just, it's not much different, but just a little bit more compact, I suppose. And maybe I can bring that down. Select this and put it there. And then here, and flip. Just a tiny bit more readable, or compact at least. Still works. Actually, no. Wait. Okay, seems good. Very nice. That, I think maybe I'll stop there, but I'm pretty intrigued to see where I can push it, like bring it, where I can bring it, I guess. And looking forward like to have cars driving around, or other entities driving around, moving along the path, pedestrians. Like I could easily imagine like kind of a simulation on this with this as a basis. Of course it will need quite a bit of work for the like the junction, so it's taken into account as a alternative path when something moves along one. I don't know if that makes sense. what I'm saying. But okay, maybe a last thing I will do before ending the stream is just checking that when we are moving a waypoint, just make sure that we don't also attempt to make a junction, because right now it does one at an invalid location or something. And we'll do that by... First, we could also validate that the junction is valid before creating it, because here I think there is one that got created among the same segment, if that makes sense. So when we release here, maybe I could put a comment, make it stand out a little bit. When we release, we need to check a little bit some stuff. I guess we could check that this is not equal to this. That should be enough to just prevent adding a junction to ourselves, if that makes sense. Up. So if I drag and release here, no problem anymore. But if I do that, junction. So it still works. Great. That might be enough. No need to complicate. Ah, cool. They switch direction automatically. Because of, I guess, the normalization of the delta. Didn't kind of expect that, but that's good. Oh yeah, it adds the point at the end. There was a weird thing happening here. Ugh. What the heck? There is something strange going on. I guess we could just also check if we're hovering over a waypoint, then we don't do all of this. And for that, we need to remember if we are hovering any waypoints, basically. And I suppose we could do it even in the game state, even... we can just also do it like this. Static bool hovering any waypoints. False. Can reset that, I guess, at that point. And set that to true here. And then bring that up, maybe next to the game state. Since it's transient, I can keep it out, but it's still state. And yeah, we just inhibit the hovering. So basically here we say this should be false. Otherwise we don't go in the hover state. So now when I hover the waypoint, there is no red circle appearing. Good, good, good. Okay, we can build a little carrefour, little intersection. Okay, can we kind of imitate what he does at the start, like? So we got this lane, and then it would be very nice to be able to then tweak the radius. It's a nice curve, it's progressive. And I think the quote-unquote radius, or the distance for the control points, can be set, where did I put it? Waypoints, draw path, draw junction. Maybe that should be done for consistency before. But of course it would be better to draw the points after we drag. Just need to iterate twice, but that could be nice to do. And then the junction, right, I wanted to change, I think that's it. Let's make it like wider and less wide. Alright, okay, I'll stop there. Do you have hot reloading, Roger? Hey, Rogers. Yes, I do. If like that was just a demonstration, perfect for the question. It's just standard hot reloading where I recompiled a DLL and reload it from the engine side. But I do have some fancy build system. Let's see. So the build system basically watches for what? Visual Studio Code sucks. It watches for any changes in the different components, like here in the DLL, the source for the DLL for the game. And as soon as I save, it detects the change and recompiles just what it needs. And then the engine reloads it. I think there is maybe a message. No, there is no message when it reloads, but yeah, it says here. And I also try to preserve the game states simply by, I think I just allocate it outside of the DLL and just set, so the game state is here, and this is the pointer to the game state, and the engine will basically save this piece of memory, preserve it during the hot reload, and then it will set the pointer in the new library, the new version of the library. It will set the pointer to point to the piece of memory that it saved. And so if I change the structure of this and hot reload, it crashes or does wonky stuff because the order doesn't match the memory that it had saved. But eventually I would like to actually serialize that properly so I can survive these kind of changes. Is it your own file watcher? Yes. Basically what I did is I implemented file watching for different platforms in, let me show you, Mac OS. So I have a file called platform, and in there it's basically the platform layer where I file watch or it's fswatch for file system watch. So it's pretty messy code, but the idea is I can call this, and then this is the version for macOS that goes and set up a file watcher with a stream. I think it's one of the first things I tried to do when I did this version of the engine like 4 or 5 years ago. So it's very messy and bizarre, but it works, so I never changed it. And then I have the same on Windows. Platform Windows fs watch here watch dear, okay, not even fs actually, and I do the stuff for Windows, and Paul. Yes, the hot reload crash UI is also mine. I've been spending a lot of time on this, probably too much. Game states. Oh, hold on. I'll try to crash it again just to. Wait, what was the... So how do I catch exceptions? It's a long jump, so actually that's to recover, but the catching exception part is a signal handler on Unix. So as soon as there is like for example a null pointer dereference, like a segfault, then the signal handler is triggered, called by the OS, and I can long jump out of the signal handler, which has implication and is maybe a little dangerous, but it works. So, and I also did the same on Windows with what's called structure event handling and stuff, I think. And it took a long while to make work, but it ended up pretty nice. Although I should probably just run in the debugger all the time. I don't know. I thought this would be useful for the cases where I don't. And also a nice feature is you can like double click or press enter, and it goes to the place in the code. Like it opens the editor at the correct place. So if I get a crash, I can just hit enter and then I'm at the place, and potentially I understand what I need to fix. So yeah, hope that answers your question. For the catching of exceptions, it's basically signal handler. So probably you may be familiar with how it all works, but I install interesting. Okay. Yeah, you install a handler. I don't know if it was very worthwhile to do all of this. Yeah. Debug info. I'm not parsing debug info. I'm using the utility that comes with macOS and Linux, and I think it's called Atos or A2S, I think. And then you can pass it a process ID and an address, and it kind of tries to resolve the symbol and the line from the debug info. And on Windows, on Linux there is a similar one, and on Windows I think, so I also did like in the platform layer some kind of stuff. Symbolize. Right, so on Windows I use the Windows APIs that allow you to symbolize or symbolicate, I think is the proper term, stack trace. And on mic I just call DL alg or A to S. That's the way it works. Alright, I think I'm going to stop the stream, getting a little bit tired. But thanks for watching, thanks for the questions. Rogers, hope to see you again. And have a good rest of the day or evening.